audience, both those online, as well as those who are here in person. The Arkansas Land and Farm Development Corporation was started back in 1980 as a historical Black community-based organization, founded on the site, located on the site that was founded by Dr. Floyd Brown back in 1919. It's over 100 years old. The land site itself is, so the history is there. And of course, part of that history is it's the makeup of all the meetings that were held at the Fargo site by Dr. Brown, relative to the African American community, agriculture, understanding agriculture, the importance of agriculture in the lives of everyone. Now, I think all of you would say that those who are present here, that USDA touched the lives of everybody. And those who may be online or those who are in person as well, I think you will witness to the fact that USDA, if you know anything about USDA, that USDA touched the lives of everyone in this country, for the most part, everyone in the world where USDA itself is present. From an agricultural food supply perspective, and that's only one area. There are so many other areas that's relevant to our day-to-day lives that involve USDA, both from a conservation perspective, clean air, water itself, that lends itself to various programs that are offered. So we're going to talk about a number of things today, what we call One USDA. What program services are offered from the agency standpoint, and various issues that are very relevant to individuals like yourself, as well as opportunities that exist for those who may be interested in some of the program services that are offered by USDA. Other areas we're going to talk about urban farming, opportunities in urban farming. We're going to talk about air property. We'll talk about conservation program services. We'll talk about community economic development itself, and where USDA rural development is from that perspective. In addition to that, let me say this: there are certain things that have happened recently. Some have been talked about, some have been in the news. On the Inflation Reduction Act, that being one. The other one being the impact of the Inflation Reduction Act on farmers, particularly the social disadvantaged farmers, and benefits that exist. The other one is the American Rescue Plan itself. So the Rescue Plan, that was one piece of legislation. Inflation Reduction Act was another piece of legislation. But all of that legislation had various benefits in it for individuals, for communities, and for agriculture in general. So we're going to have some discussion about that. We're going to start off, and I don't think NRCS, if NRCS is online.
Sherry, the state coordinator for conservation stewardship program, is on her way. That was Kennard Williams. Just called her. If she's not able to make it, Kennard Williams, who's the district conservationist for Pulaski County, will go in her place. He's here. Kennard is here. Kennard is here. He's calling Sherry. Sherry supposedly is on her way. But Kennard Williams is here right now.
It's parking space.
Yeah.
He's here.
Well, Mr. Williams gets in, happy to join us.
That's what I was telling you. She tried to get away from it.
So the first one we have on the agenda to have discussions with will be Natural Resource Conservation Services, and what we want them to have to provide for you, to bring the information regarding the program services that's offered by the agency as it relates to urban agriculture. One, the other thing we will have some discussions with them about is what does NRCS have to offer from a urban farm perspective. And some individuals may have questions of saying, what is a urban farmer, or who are the urban farmers? And urban farmers could be any of you that's here in this room today, or any of those that may be online. And Mr. William, he is here with us, and we're gonna turn it over to him to talk about NRCS, some of the special programs that they have to offer. I think that may possibly be a news release that's going to be coming out this week. It may come out today from USDA perspective. On some of the program opportunities that will be made available, and how individuals can apply for both some of the grant programs, and how NRCS will be delivering a broader range of program service delivery to its constituents. Yeah, Mr. Lee, let me ask you, NRCS, as it stands right now, what are some of the basic resources, just resources in general, that NRCS has to offer to farmers, micro-urban farmers, particularly, as well as farmers in general?
For Pulaski County, or even for NRCS, the programs that are available, we do have EQIP, and a lot of those practices that we're looking at through EQIP for urban farm, urban conservation. Some of those are high tunnel. We do quite a few high tunnel here in Pulaski County, but this goes across pretty much the whole state. But high tunnel, irrigation, water management, cover crop, nutrient management, pest management, those practices that are needed to try to sustain. I mean, those are things that we're trying to do anyway to help the producers and the landowners to sustain. The purpose of the high tunnel are to extend the lifespan of the growing season. So instead of like in October this year, we had a frost, a killing frost this year. If you had a high tunnel, that would have prevented some of those things from happening, because that frost would hit those crops. We did have a lot of produce crops got hurt pretty bad in October from the frost, from the early frost. Normally you get a frost in November. This came the second week of October and pretty much took a lot of the produce and vegetables out for this year. If you start looking at a lot of the other urban agriculture, we try to look at areas for the food desert, those areas that you do not have access to fresh fruit and vegetable within a certain distance. Now, I know you mentioned about the program, the announcement of the program. I don't have that information with me right now. I know Sherry's on her way. She may have the exact details when that program, new program coming out, but under EQIP, and the best way to do a lot of that, and we don't have a acre restriction. You know, some people wonder about acre size. It's not based on acres. I have a lot of high tunnels are like 2/10 of an acre. So I do have some areas in the county or on city lots and things like that. So you do have to go through FSA and get your farm number, your tract number. NRCS side of it don't take, but I do assist with that part. But I will also refer you to FSA to actually get your farm on tract number so you can actually apply for those programs. That's the start on our side of it.
Just say from an urban farm perspective, but just land ownership in general. Of course, you could either lease that land or you could lease that lot, being an urban farmer. What have you found, or what has NRCS found to be some of the challenges, particularly when you talk about some of the disenfranchised communities and where urban farm opportunities exist? Yes.
You still have some of those issues of air land, air property, being able to get control of that property, because you either have to have a lease agreement or actually have control of that property. So you can't apply in FSA and actually get the farm on tract number. You got to show that you either own that land or you have access or control of that land. by deed or lease or something like that. So that's one of the biggest challenges that we've been having is being able to get those agreements, those proof of ownership or proof of agreement with heir property.
Well, not just for urban farm, I'm assuming that if you are wanting to benefit from the program services that's available through NRCS, if you're a small farmer, you're an urban farmer, you're a large farmer, then the issue of heir property is something that has to be addressed if you are seeking those services. Now, Mr. Williams, we all know that when you talk about agriculture, people talk about they're thinking about a lot of money and a lot of investment, major investments. If you want to be a farmer and even becoming an urban farmer, and of course there are cost factors that's involved when you talk about those programs that are offered. One, even being able to establish those type of added resources on your farm, say a hoop house, irrigation. Now, how does NRCS offset that major cost? When you start talking about capital investments in irrigation, construction, hoop houses, then you can easily run up into a few $1,000s, even on urban farm.
Right. Well, this year, the example of this year, we do have a cost list, and our cost list change annually. And we usually be a year behind for cost list wise, because like our cost list for 23 be based on 22 costs, expenses for 22, which is a little bit higher because of inflation rates this year. But for example, we should say cost share, a percentage of cost share, but we actually say flat rate. And the reason we got away from cost share to flat rate, the example for high tone. We may pay on our largest side, which is 2,880 square feet high tone. We may pay $10,000 on that high tone. So that's our flat rate. That's an example. And then this year, with the way steel and inflation and everything's going up, I think one of our producers probably ended up paying close to $18,000 for that high tunnel for that size. Normally, before the inflation and everything going up, usually be about $12,000, $13,000. So the producer usually be about out of $2,000 to $3,000 for that cost, their cost, compared to NRCS share. So you're looking at 10 to 20%, and ours would be 8%. And that's also if somebody install it for you, if you do your own installation. If you do your own installation, that's going to help you on your expense of total expense. So, and we will check it and make sure it meets NRCS standards and specs someone from my office. So that's how that works. So if you can put those practices in, it's going to always be based on each year going to be different because of prices, everything. Input costs are up this year on material and steel and plastic and everything that goes involved. Even on the irrigation water management, you look at PVC pipe, things like that is a little bit higher in 23 compared to 22 compared to 1. So if you have a high funnel that was funded in 21, your price of the contract is locked in on that price, even though it's going to cost you more in 22 to install it. So it's always good to try to implement those practices as soon as possible, because I haven't seen anything go down. Most of I've seen go up every year. So did I answer that question for you?
Yeah, you answered it, and like I said, hopefully everyone is getting that. NRCS offer, one of the things in the Inflation Reduction Act, it talks about access to land and access to capital. Now, of course, NRCS offer access to capital resources by offsetting that cost that's involved if you're talking about an urban farm. So if you set a 20% on the part of the individual producers, and we want to get to how some of that other 20% can possibly be covered and get the Farm Service Agency from an urban farm perspective. But let's just use, I'm gonna use $10,000 so I can make it easy on myself. Okay. So if it's $10,000 actual cost to deal with what I would call added value to the land and one becoming an urban farmer, then $2,000 of that, if it's 20%, would be the obligation of that beginning urban farmer. And then the remaining balance could be paid by NRCS.
Yes.
So again, Inflation Reduction Act, then one, access to capital resources and access to land is part of the Inflation Reduction Act. Some of the language there and some of the other program services that are being offered and some things that we have read about, and how some organizations will be providing opportunities, possibly providing opportunities to make all this possible as far as access to the capital, maybe about leveraging that 80% of that 90% from NRCS with the investments coming from some other particular sources. And I don't know if FSA is going to talk very much about it, but I know they recently had an RFP out for roughly some $300 million or $300 million or $1 billion. Okay, 33. I want to add something on to that. But roughly some $300 million. And of course, I don't know how those services are going to be delivered within the state of Arkansas and how some of the partnerships are, but I know that's one of the areas, the deal with access to capital and access to land that's out there now and should be coming forth pretty soon. Other areas by NRCS, I know you have the equip program and those things that are offered, through it, hoop house being one, irrigation program. Land level is part of that. If you're a little larger farmer, say you're 40 acres.
Yes.
Yeah. So
So we'll elaborate on.
well, I guess one of the things, if you looked at that, you were very detailed when you talked about the hoop house and the dollars. And of course, the same thing comes on the inflation side when you talk about land. What are some of the numbers we talk about normally? You talk about a 20-acre farm.
Well, I tell you, I know and most of them go by cubic yards, so much dirt that they move, amount of yards that they actually move dirt wise. Normally you probably get land level, just as example land level, because we pay on tailwater recovery systems, reservoirs, pits. This year, if you look at, used to get land level done for probably about $1.75, $1.80 a cubic yard, running about $2.10, $2.15 a cubic yard. So, and the turnaround, we're average, a lot of those yards are average about 350, 400 cubic yards. So you go add that number per acre. And that's about how much additional cost that producer would have to come up on their own, on their part of their share of it. So, even the same thing with digging the pits in the reservoir, those numbers have gone up. And like you was talking about that inflation act, supposed to cover some of that. I don't have all the details on that part of it and what it's going to cover. Now, I do know they was talking about certain practices. And I guess we have to wait and see which practices will be covered and to try to supplement some of that. I don't, that part hadn't been detailed. That part hadn't quite come out, what practice. Hopefully all of them, but we don't know. I don't know.
The conservation easement, what does that offer?
Conservation easement, that offer, it actually allows you to take out some of your land, say, if you start talking about Pacific wetland acres. Yeah, it also includes the hydric soils. The price per acre, I don't know if it's going up or not per acre, but what it does, it take out acres and land that are staying wet so many years, hydric soils that have hydric soils on them, which are wet soils, wetland issues. So a lot of that is in a different shop, and they actually have a team. They actually have a team now that actually do all the easements. So a lot of that won't run through your local office. The application can. We actually have a team that actually take care of all the easements. That can be WRP, CIG have teams take care of a lot of that now.
So basically, the program, as I understand it, works that you can put it into conservation easement, you still have ownership of the land.
You still have ownership of the land, you still have pretty much all your rights, you just can't farm. is gonna be for wildlife. Now you have a 30-year and you have a permit. So with those, with that easement on it, you have to be staying wildlife for the duration of 30 years of permit.
Can you lease it for hunting purposes?
You can lease it, you can lease it. You can hunt yourself where you can lease it. You still own and control that land. The easement is just for, you can't not farm.
But now practices, even dealing with wildlife, there are certain practices that would have to be put on the land from a conservation perspective.
Okay.
How does that cost get dealt with? Will the landowner receive the benefit of, again, program payments? Can they receive the benefit of program payments on the conservation easement? I know we're talking about two different types of contract, easement contract versus a, say, wildlife habitat, type of contract.
So for WRP or those easement contracts, the permanent easement, things haven't changed. They that cost, NRCS, you can take care of that cost. The 30-year easement, there is a percentage cost that the producer will end up having to pay to restore it, restoration work. And those practices are gonna be from establishing trees, putting in water areas, that's from putting in drop pockets, flood and things like that. So though, yeah, it is for 30 years, you have some, producers do have some rates that they will, some costs they will have in that one.
So the landowner, and they take the 30-year easement, and I see that as being said, that was benefit farming in 30 years. And I put tree practices in, and I want to plant certain types of trees. 30-year time period, you have pretty good maturity of those trees. Possibly within 20 years. Can the landowner harvest the trees from the property that's in the easement program?
It's a possibility. They have to have, at that time, they'll go out, NRCS will go out and evaluate. And it won't be a clear cut, it may be a select harvest, but at that time, 15, 20 years down the road, and we need to go in and do some select harvest, that's possible. It will be on a case-by-case basis, land-by-land basis.
So it would be beneficial then if one is going to go in and say, put it into a 30-year easement program, and they want to do trees, then they probably do a partnership with forestry then. With one, the proper type of tree planting that will be harvestable, let's say, a 20-year time period, and then two, having some type of forestry plan that would provide for cutting, doing a management cut.
NRCS will have the forestries and forestry plans in place. The land will come in and say, hey, I want to harvest some harvesting, we'll go out. And we do have a forestry on staff. Maybe state level, area level, but they will actually develop that plan. Maybe with the assistance, maybe with the subject fish, it just depends on who's available. So we do a lot of contractors. We don't call them contractors, we call them partners. We partner with different agencies, and different agencies will use their expertise.
I want to come back to the urban farm, side of it, and those who may be interested, both online as well as those in the audience. In order to get the services from NRCS, and say you want to become a beginning urban farmer, are you already an urban farmer and you just haven't benefited from NRCS program services? What would be one of the requirements that you know they would need in order to be able to benefit from the services?
Very first step, you gotta have fun on track. If you're not in the system, we can't, we can always do CTA, conservation technical system. We can always come out and evaluate and give you some ideas and some suggestions and things like that on your property. But if you want to benefit from the program, first step, you gotta have fun on track number. If you don't have fun on track number, you're not in the system, you're not able to actually provide that assistance to you, which, as I say, our sister agency, we would cover that part of which have to have a deed, have to file a 20.7, have to have a copy of the deed, legal description of where the property, a map, area map. They need all that information. If they don't own the land for the deed, they have to have a lease agreement. And FSA check all of that eligibility for that part of it. They also have to fill out an AGI, which is the adjusted gross income. It states that they have to make less than 900,000 a year of adjusted gross, so that part was also another requirement.
Now,
You have a question.
yes,
Dr. King, before you leave, talking about equipment and land conservation, how much land do you need to have to qualify to get the equip and the conservation easement? How much land do you have to have before, excuse me, you would qualify for that?
okay, the question was, taking those online is that what are the required acres, the minimum number of acres, that one would need in order to benefit from the conservation easement program?
Equip, 0. You don't have to have a minimum amount of acres to participate in equip. The easement, I don't know at this time. It changed, so I don't know at this time the exact number of acres per easement. I don't know if they eliminated that or not. But it's all about a ranking process. So I know the adjacent to existing easements actually make your ranking go up higher. So acre wise, I can get back with you on acre wise, how many per acre requirements. But equip is not acre.
Next, you have another question?
Yes, sir.
I know you mentioned a flat rate.
Yes, ma'am.
And equip, is that the same throughout the state or is each county different?
It'll be a flat rate across the state, because we have our cost list now. If you go in each county may have some special projects like RCPP, some actual special project that you may be able to sign up in 2 different categories. But your basic is a cost share straight across the whole state.
You have another question? Yes.
I was wondering about the conservation stewardship program. It's my understanding that if you're in that program, you actually, once you are, say, accepted, you can pick different, or NRCS will come out and assist you in picking whatever you need. It may not just be you're going to do wildlife, so we may need land clearing, we need wildlife, we may need this. I mean, so it's different categories that you can actually pick. We have a certain number or amount that you can pick up to the stewardship.
On the conservation stewardship program and how that program works, it actually takes your property or takes your to another level. Give you example, just give you example on that part of it. Say if you're doing irrigation water management, say you're just doing the basic irrigation water management on the equip or whatever. If you want to do like CSP, you want to take it to another level, you go ahead and say you're gonna put in soil sensors in the soil so that actually give you readings whatever your soil when they need to water it. That's an enhancement. You actually enhance it. That's different than CSP. But CSP and equip. Equip is actually to help you implement those practices to get you to that next level of CSP. CSP is where we're gonna help you to that next level of advance. Yes, ma'am. It actually advances. But a lot of times people need to start at equip. And the reason you start at equip, you need to get all your basic practices and things established and going. And then when you want to take it to another level, you go to your student. And they'll have different practices to get you to that level.
But I want to make sure that on 2 things out. That Mr. Williams, now you're not saying that if one does not sign up for equip, they cannot apply for CSP?
No.
Oh, okay. I want to make sure. Now you can apply for CSP conservation stewardship practices or contract to implement CSP. And depending upon the type of practices you're going to implement, that you may be able to implement certain type of practices on a CSP, even if you have not have a hoop house, okay, and you can do certain practices even if you don't have irrigation system. It may be crop rotation, it may be cover crops. I'm right. Just I'm right about it. If I'm wrong, if I'm wrong, then the technical resource person has failed.
heard that. We're not saying we may have to do equip first, but some people have already been doing a lot of conservation on the ground already, that they've done on their own over the years. The county I was working for previous, before King Pulaski, they already had tailwater recovery systems in, they had reservoirs in, and a lot of that was done on their own. They did it on their own at their own expense.
Right.
So when they jump right into stewardship, because all of them are ranking, you have rankings. So, and all that's taken into consideration where you are, where you want to be, and are you advanced and how far advanced. But a lot of people go straight to advanced that already implemented a lot of the land leveling and that part of the country, land leveling, tailwater recovery, drop pipes, pits, pumps, a lot of that stuff was already in. So they just went to stewardship, but a lot of them didn't have like the soil moisture units and things like that. We also had a situation where they started doing the variable speed on the electric well, turn them on, turn them off. Most times electric, when you turn on, it's just wrong. So now you got these innovation technology now, you can hook these systems up, turn them on, turn them off by telephone. So, you know, that's like taking it to another level.
But now I know some of the things, Mr. Williams was getting reference to then, we're not talking about urban. We're definitely not talking about micro urban farm. You know, I farmed for 20 years. And like I said, the CSP, let's see this now. On the micro urban farm and the CSP program, and I don't know to what extent, you know, that has been implemented of everything, all of the implementation process, the eligibility requirements have come into play yet, but it's my understanding they were going to come out with a urban farm CSP program, okay? Because when you start talking about the ranking, as well as the type of practices that may be employed on a larger scale farm versus the urban farms, it's like apples and oranges to a certain degree.
They all working on
Yeah. So that's one. That's a piece of our program. It's a modification to the CSP program for what I was able to understand back roughly a year plus ago when they first put the information out, and they have an urban farm subcommittee for the technical committee, state technical committee now that is also looking at that. So that's one. But different type of practices would qualify under the CSP program, even if you are a micro urban farm. I'm not quite sure if particular soil nutrient, you know, type of practice that may be implemented, and maybe crop rotation. You know, it may be a cover crop, you know, on your particular farm, just like with other farms. A lot of the practices, and the resource person will tell me where I'm wrong or where I'm right. But you know, some of the practices that would fall under conservation stewardship are practices that farmers should be implementing anyway. The only thing is that if you're implementing these practices, there are program payments for it. And the program payment, some are called it smart agriculture, you know, type of practice one. The other has to do more with not as much conservation. Smart agriculture, and there's another one that relates to the environment. I'm not sure what y'all terminology is for that. Other than smart agriculture, environmental issue itself, but and I won't get into all the carbon credits and other things that are actually linked back to that. But producing certain plants, certain cover crops are specifically linked back to smart agriculture and can be connected back to conservation stewardship practices. Cover crops.
No problem. Oh, yeah.
Cover crops particular, okay. So, are there any questions, particularly about the farm number? If you want to become a beginning urban, if you want to be a part of bridging some of the gap on local food supply. Then these are, NRCS is a major resource agency for you. If you want to be a part of local food supply being one, and then the other, let's talk about the overall supply chain itself. So how can you as an individual, how do you know, or do you know individuals that's in your local community that may want to be a part of this particular opportunity that exists by being self-employed as an urban farmer one, and knowing how to access the resources that can allow them to take advantage of it. Now this young lady here, and I'm not going to a point, I know she has a lot of questions, but I do know we have one young urban beginning farmer here, and then we have another one that's in the audience that's also, they probably almost graduated from being a beginning farmer now, been more than, I don't think it has been 10 years yet, Ms. Barnes. We're still a beginning farmer, and she is a urban farmer, and she bought her own farm. So all of these practices are very important. You also have yours as well. So she has her own. Both of these are beginning farmers and understand and wanting more information on the resource opportunities that's available both to NRCS as well as the other USDA agencies. Are there any other questions from the audience or online? Any questions? We're gonna go to Farm Service Agency now, and as I mentioned before, USDA touched the lives of everybody. If you go in the grocery store, just think about it. USDA has had something to do with what you're buying from a food supply perspective in that store. And you can think about it again, you can say, what resources were taken advantage of by that particular producer, or those producers that's making that supply available to you in the stores. So we're going to go down to the Farm Service Agency, and they're going to talk about the resource opportunities they have available. And of course, you all heard me mention a few minutes ago that big $300 million figure. I just 300 billion. Okay, not big. I'm sorry. It is big. It is big. I see. How that $300 billion. $300 billion. Now that $300 billion, people understand that $300 billion is a part of the Inflation Reduction Act legislation. And as I understand it, and from what I was thinking, I read that right, 300 billion. The maximum amount that is going to be provided to various groups, institutions, universities, can be up to 40 billion per application going in. And what was really crucial to me, what was so important, I think, both in the RFP, is that it talked about access to land, access to capital, and access to market opportunities. So that's the big three out of that 300 billion and type of proposals, the various proposals that have gone in. The point is that $300 billion is going to be put out there. That's one. And out of that $300 billion that will be put out for program service delivery that will provide access to land, access to capital, and access to market opportunities. And to what extent, it's going to impact our area, I don't know, because I don't know how many are going to be funded for Arkansas. That's one. I know that a number of that actually went in. And then the other is that FSA itself is automatically a resource for access to capital. So FSA.
Okay, First off, my name is Jessica Willis. I'm a farm loan officer and I cover Lone Oak and Pulaski counties here. Where do you want me to start? We can start with the loans, we can start with some information on the IRA, just point me in the direction where we want to go.
Well, I want to go with this, as we talk through it. One is that USDA Farm Service Agency is probably one of the largest financing institutions for agriculture in a lot of different ways. Okay, in a lot of different ways, because FSA has both the program side, that's one, and then it has the lending side, the loan side, where you are. And we may not talk as much about the program side. And so from that perspective, when we talk, and it also has the risk management side, which is dealing with crop insurance, from that perspective. Disaster financing, you also have that particular arm when things just don't work out very well because of weather conditions and other things. So FSA. Now, basic problem with FSA is that you're somewhat like NRCS. I'm assuming that you must have a farm number, or do you have to have a farm number in order to access financing from FSA?
So as far as getting financing, it is not a necessity to have a farm number, but we do highly recommend it so that you are eligible on the program side to receive program assistance at a later date. So having a farm number does help you be eligible for those programs. And it also helps us as far as paperwork is concerned when it comes to the loan process.
Okay, so if a person becomes an urban farmer, then they can't get, and they make an application to you and they have lot A, B, and C. And out of those two lots, they want to apply for your microloan up to $50,000 to get for both chattel, for equipment, and then for operating expenses. Now, on that, with that application, and it is not required to have a farm number, so you can still get approved for $50,000 for your operating expenses. That's what you got.
Yes,
Okay.
as long as we have a legal description, which can be a township section range, a physical address, we can proceed.
Now, but now that same beginning urban farmer, if they wanted to get program assistance for NAP, an example, and they wanted to sign up for risk management on crop insurance,
then there will be that farm number. So like I said, we highly recommend that you go ahead and get it when you apply for that loan, but it is not a requirement.
So really, in reality, without a farm number, you can't get the full benefit of FSA.
You cannot.
You cannot get the full benefit of FSA. So again, it's back to the farm number. In order for you to get the full benefit of program services that's available even through farm service agents, that's on the program side, okay? Now, what if there's a disaster and they file for a claim for disaster payments because of drought, rain, whatever, and they lose their crop? Would they qualify for the disaster payments then with FSA?
No, because those payments are coming from the program side, so you're gonna
That's
need
from the
it.
program side. And so another example, can't get the full circle. The full circle, you can't connect all
We're
the
not
dots.
giving the full benefits of FSA.
Okay, an individual outside of and this is on risk management again, so disaster payments, that's a part of the risk management factor. You want to be eligible for that because things happen. That's what farming is all about. Disaster and other things happen. Same thing would be for the crop insurance. So under that side, not sure type of crops on that side. What other program payment possibilities exist that one would not be eligible for if they don't have the farm number with FSA?
Okay, again, I'm on the loan side, so that's my expertise, but I can touch on a few. So we have what is the ARC/PLC payments, which you would need a loan number for, as well as CRP. The thing that would be applied most to urban farming would probably be NAP. And the NAP program is for those agricultural commodities that are not row crops. So a lot of vegetable, honey, that's a big one as well. And there are even some programs for livestock. So I know about 2 years ago, there was a drought and quite a few farmers lost cattle. So that's something that could benefit them as well. Any program that you are looking to receive funding from, you would have to have that farm number. And you can come in and you can do all of that at once. If you're gonna apply for a loan, you can find out then and there what all information you need to submit in order to get that farm number. But as Kennard said earlier, it's gonna be the deed, the aerial map, the AGI, and what's the last one, 2047.
Okay, with, now with FSA, we definitely understand the importance of the farm number to get full circle benefits from FSA. But now you also, under the direct loan program, operating loan and equipment financing, you provide conservation financing.
Yes, we do. Now, I will say that I'm not as familiar with it because we haven't done that quite a bit. Now, I've been there 10 years. So as far as the Lonoke and Pulaski counties are concerned, we don't do that much funding for conservation. A lot of times our farmers go straight to NRCS and they typically handle everything that needs to be taken care of. Because they have the benefit of receiving that funding and it not being a loan. And that's something that I like to stress. We provide loans, it's not a grant.
No.
It's a loan, so we expect you to pay that money back. First, NRCS, they have that funding program available.
Now, I asked that, for this reason. One is that if I'm working with NRCS and I put in for an equip contract and it just has not been approved at this point, we're going through the gates, all right? If I wanted to apply for a loan to go ahead and get my practices implemented, then so would I apply for just a regular operating loan to get my hoop house in and my irrigation system established? Would that all fall under equipment? So within a $50,000, that's under the micro loan. So the $50,000 micro loan. Could you apply this for a regular operating loan and say, this is for my hoop house, this is for getting my irrigation established, and this is for, and all everything that is being budgeted is within the context of a conservation contract?
Yes, so, Kennard, you want to?
Go ahead and finish. I think make some corrections on make some corrections.
See, that's why you have a resource. Go ahead.
Yes, if you are looking to go ahead and get funding to get your operation started while you are waiting on your paperwork to be processed with NRCS, that is something that you can look at doing through FSA. So if you are wanting to do what's necessary for the irrigation, as well as for the high tunnels, then that is something that we can look at doing.
Okay, and I know Mr. Williams, he's fixing to come back on me on this, but I want to ask one other question in regards to that. So if that's 100%, now that would mean that then you would have a lien on that particular contract, and just say the contract approved, it just hasn't got everything implemented at this point, but you would have a lien on those dollars then, right?
Yes,
Okay.
that is correct.
All right, yeah, Mr. Wade, he's gonna, something that I said I did wasn't correct, now he's gonna make it right. Mr. Wade, go ahead.
All right, let me clear up a little bit. On our program, if it's not approved, can you hear me?
Online.
Okay. All right, let me just make one clarification. On the programs, if it's not funded by NRCS yet, you can't start that practice or we won't pay for it. Because you also have to have public resources done at the same time. So you have to have some clearance, for those practices before you actually start. Now they can go and apply for the loan, but they can't implement it.
Right, I got you.
They cannot implement it because it's not guaranteed that you'll get funded this year.
Right.
For that contract. So I don't want want to put any misinformation out there that, you know, you can do the loan and then you implement it, and then come back and get reimbursed. That won't be, it's another process in there. You got to wait until the cook resources clears. You have to actually get funding, you're not guaranteed to get funded. Now, one thing I did miss, and I should have mentioned it earlier, we do have a process where you can actually do an advance payment.
Oh, Lord.
I'm just telling you. I'm just telling you, it's an option for advance payment that I have to let you know about it.
Okay.
But it's out there. That's an option out there, where you can get 50% of that payment, but you have 90 days to install it. Now, if you don't have 90 days to install it, a lot of times they want their money back, or it need to be spent on the materials. It's not implemented, it need to be spent on that material, and I can come out there and document and get it. It's been bought for whatever reason, maybe whether you had to implement. But there you go.
No, well, let me ask you something. I'm not mad you correct us on that. So you know, if we send, if a farmer sent an application in and said that they want a loan to put in a hoop house, and then what you'd be looking for is an approved contract.
So not necessarily, because we have some farmers who would rather just go through FSA and get that financing and worry about paying the loan back. But I will say this, you do take that risk if you are interested in going through NRCS to do that program and apply for the loan. But when we process that loan, we're gonna look for feasibility regardless. We wanna make sure that you're gonna have the necessary income in order to make those loan and payments on time. So we kind of cover ourselves with that. It is the applicant that's taking the risk at that point, because you're passing up that free funding and applying for a loan.
Well, let me, I want to make sure that we can work through this. I want to say one USDA. So probably the best practice to employ if one is becoming a beginning urban farmer, and they make application, and you have that as a part of the application. Then, so even if that's approved, then one probably should not draw that money down until we know we have the NRCS contract approved. So they should go hand in hand.
That is correct.
So the possibility then is one, it could get approved for the financing. That's one. Two, then once that contract is approved by NRCS, then you'll be prepared to release the loan finance and take a lien on that approved contract to begin implementation. But they should go hand in hand.
Yes.
Okay.
The loan can be approved subject to.
I think
Yes.
just because this example was put out here, I just want to be very clear. USDA agencies are sister agencies, but we do work separately. So this does fall on the operator to ensure he or she make sure they take the responsibility. So if they decide to follow this example and put in an application with NRCS for this grant, and then go get this loan, and this happens, and you end up with a loan, and something happens, and your grant gets disapproved, that falls on you. And do not come back into your USDA office upset, okay?
No, I would.
I just wanted to be very, very clear, because we are just customer servants, and we are just filling out the applications and helping you. Okay, all right, thank you.
I would totally agree with you on that. You know, and again, partnership and that technical support is very key. Follow the plan. And one other thing, you know, if you have a plan, follow the plan. If you don't have a plan, then you're already in trouble. You know, on the front end, you're in trouble on the front end. If you say you want to be a farmer, or you want to become an urban farmer, if you don't have a farm business plan, cash flow, FSA say you must have a cash flow ability to repay. Okay. Of course, you know, if you have program resources based on what your itemized expense category consists of for both the operating equipment or whatever, including the equipment, then that means if you get the program payments from NRCS, then you have a stronger cash flow against your overall income. So that's really what it comes down to. I would not do a business plan for anyone that did not automatically have. I would tell you, you don't cash flow, you don't show the business to repay.
And Dr. King, let me just interject right here. This plan is probably gonna be the most important part of your entire application when it comes to FSA. But even more so, when we're talking about urban farming, a lot of the times these farmers are just beginning, and I'm talking about first year. So you have to provide to us where you're getting this information from. How you said you're gonna have $20,000 worth of expenses. Where did you get the number 20,000 from? You said you're gonna make $100,000 selling greens. Tell me how you're gonna make $100,000 selling greens. And in all seriousness, this is information that we need to know because these plans have to be realistic. When I type up this, when I type up my farm business plan that's gonna be reviewed to determine whether or not you're gonna be approved, I have to say, John Doe intends to sell greens at the farmer's market, and he projects that he will grow so much and sell it at this price within this time frame, and it has to be reasonable. So please keep that in mind when it comes to FSA and filling out the application. Your plan must be feasible, and you must have supporting documentation for your income as well as your expenses.
And I would look at along with that. If you're a beginning urban farmer, the numbers are there. You know, we don't, you know, we only use USDA's numbers, you know, what the possibilities are. That's what just like, I mean, entrepreneurship itself, or business itself, and farming is a very serious business. You know, the point of entrepreneurship and business is the willingness to make an investment at a risk. At a risk, but with the intent of making money, of making a profit. I mean, that's what, you know, that's what business is about. You know, that's all of the multi-millionaires that exist. You know, they made, and I wouldn't call names of some of them, but you know, I don't think any of them would tell you that they invested $500,000, $1 million, you know, knowing that they were going to make a profit of $500,000. Their intent was to make a $500,000 and double their money. So maybe that's the intent. I mean, that's always the intent of business. And so your plan is the determining factor to show whether it's feasible or not. And comparables are what you look at. When you look at comparable for other comparable farms of that size and those type of crops being produced, and all of that information exists. I mean, I wouldn't develop a farm business plan without looking at existing numbers, statistical data that exists. You know, some of that statistical data links back to NASA, matter of fact, the Census Bureau. So, you know, what is yield, the average yields on various crops and crop enterprises in their particular county, particular area. The other one is corporate extension service. You know, you have to now once you have been farming for 3 to 5 years. Once you've been farming 3 to 5 years, then FSA is not going to look at those numbers there. They're going to look at your actual. So you say, okay, well, what have been your 3-year, last year's average yields per acre that's on your greens, if it's on your potatoes or whatever, you know, and what was your actual revenue? Okay, so let's start dealing with actual numbers. Am I right?
Yes, that is very correct. Record keeping is vital.
Yes.
And that's even before you start working with FSA. So if you're currently have an operation that you're financing out of pocket, start keeping up those records, how much you're producing and what you're spending and what your income is. That way you have something to show. And even more so with microloans, because we don't always need that 3-year history for those microloans, which are the loans that we have that the max is $50,000. But if you can show us your records from the previous year and your operation will be similar in the upcoming year, we can look at that and kind of use that to gauge your plan.
Let me ask this as far as FSA is concerned.
You want to stay here? We'll put another paper.
I'm gonna let it.
Okay.
I didn't stay in contact.
You know, we're not gonna stop at this point. But this is the added resource. Now we have double resources for NRCS. So everything that Mr. Williams said, no, he wasn't gonna give an answer on. Now we do have an answer on it. So he called in his backup. That's what it is.
I'm sorry if I didn't answer someone on the side, for outreach, for ALCDC. We have someone who wants your information, if you could give that.
Okay, yes, my name again is Jessica Willis, and I'm the Farm Loan Officer in Lonoke County. The telephone number is 501-676-5116, extension 2. And my email address is jessica.willis@usda.gov. Mr. Barnes? Yes, sir.
Question about your map insurance and your programs.
I'll do my best.
You get a hoop house, but you get something and they're not met. How is it possible?
That's out of my wheelhouse, but if you'll call the same number, because I know you're in Pulaski County, so call and ask for Daryl Park. He's over their program and he can give you all the details of it. Again, I'm on the loan side, so I don't have as much knowledge about the programs as I probably should, but I can definitely get you to the right person. The question was information about NAP, if you're growing vegetables in a hoop house.
Is it 501-676?
5116, extension 2.
Okay. Now again, one, keeping records, if you're already informed, if you're not, you know, some people say, well, no, we're not really a big every year, and I sell performance market. Then you should start keeping your records if you have not been keeping your records. Now the other thing that they will look for, and I'm going to mention this, and I'm thinking the same thing applies with the FSA microloan, is that you have to show your tax records.
That's correct.
Okay, so on the microloan, you must have at least 1 year or 3 years the same.
For microloans, we're gonna look at your last 3 years. If you don't have farm income for those 3 years, that's perfectly fine.
Okay, because they're beginning farm.
Yes, that's correct. And the same thing, even if you were applying for our larger loans, they go up to $400,000. We're typically looking at your income tax records to see how you're filing. Also, if you are farming, to see how you are farming. For instance, you should be farming in the same way with FSA as you are with your tax ID number that's associated with your EIN or tax ID number that's associated with the IRS. So we want to know that you're doing everything congruently.
We're gonna let FSA introduce herself now. We're gonna come back with what was it? I mean, you know, this is NRCS, not FSA, not FSA. FSA was going so good, man. Access to land and $300 billion. You know, what would you be saying? We're gonna have the NRC introduce ourselves. Where she's located.
That's someone had a question.
I have a question.
Yeah. Someone said they're considering doing container farming. What would be the best start to gather information?
Container.
You know, I'm going to shift this back over there, say, but I'm going to say this, and I know, but with these two resource folks here, they're telling me either I'm away in left field or wrong either way, but I don't think container farming is eligible under either FSA or NRCS program services. FSA, let me know. How does it work?
I'm not familiar with container farming. That's not anything that we've had come up to my knowledge. But again, if you're growing a commodity and you're selling it and you have the necessary income to cover your expenses, I mean, we'll look at it. I mean, we're never gonna turn you down and tell you not to try. So it's something, if you're interested in, work filling out an application or at least calling your local FSA office and discussing it.
NRCS, and I'm assuming talking about hydroponic, is he talking about hydroponic? Because I do know under urban, even container farming, but they are doing some of those in the cities. And they are working on urban cost lists of things that will be eligible. It's not out here yet. It's probably 2024 before we actually have a list of like container farming. Right now, we don't have a hydroponic on the cost list, but they're working on it. So that's something that's coming. So all that's gonna fall under your urban, even the container farm, all that's gonna fall under that urban category that's coming, that they're working on a national, all the way down to the state level.
What about raised beds?
Yes.
Same thing.
Yes, yes.
Same thing.
Yeah, I was about to say, all of that is all under urban ag. All of that is all under urban ag, which is still a relatively new initiative. What you're going to see when we're talking about USDA. So when it comes down to it, it doesn't necessarily have to be hydroponics, but that does still fall under urban ag and under the new initiatives under urban ag. So we're working on it. So bear with us and we'll have more information coming shortly. I'm Jill Bishop and I'm National Ag Statistics Service. I'll talk later.
Hey, this is Calvin. Try to make a comment.
Go ahead, Mr. Trice.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. As a part of this urban conservation initiative, the Central Arkansas Sphinx Foundation has a grant through the Natural Resources Conservation Service dealing with urban agriculture. And one of the things, the approaches that we're taking is working with community gardens, working with backyard gardens, and even working with container gardens. So we're going through the process now of implementation of the grant for Pulaski County that's specifically addressing urban conservation, backyard gardening, community gardens, and container gardens. And so we're looking at all aspects of assistance to these urban clients. And so we can provide the information necessary. We're having workshops. We've had 2 already over at the UAPB North Little Rock campus dealing specifically with this project. And our first effort is to address the needs through the community gardens. And then we're going to move on to the backyard gardens. And then, of course, the individual container gardens too. So there's a multitude of different entities that are addressing many of these urban conservation issues. And we'll be happy to provide the information in the chat on our future workshops. You can go to casfworkshops@gmail.com and you will see the upcoming urban conservation workshops that we're going to be doing. That's casfworkshops@gmail.com.
And on Mr. Trice, if he could put his information in the chat.
Mr. Trice, could you please put your information in the chat? Thank you.
Will do. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Sherry DeGraffenreid, and I am the Conservation Stewardship Program Manager, or better known as CSP Program Manager for the state of Arkansas, and I am located in the federal building downtown on the 5th floor.
One of the questions regarding conservation stewardship and urban farming. Now, then you said you waste those applications.
Right.
Okay, so you're ranking the same way on urban agriculture as you do with your Regular, yeah, cropland.
No, not necessarily. Urban. Oh, okay, so CSP, they'll all, right now, the urban ag is something completely brand new to CSP, and we're working on those initiatives, but we don't have what we call a urban ag category in CSP, so you would apply for those enhancements, and that is because CSP is the step up from EQIP, okay? So the benefit of this, I always say, you use EQIP to fix your land, you use CSP to enhance your land. So the opportunities right now, we're currently looking at more opportunities, but if you already have established gardens and things of that nature, or cropland where you're growing alternative crops or something like that, then I would say your opportunities there are to enhance your regular crop rotation, tillage, and things of that nature, but you also have the chance to step it up and add things such as pollinator habitat. And that helps create an ecosystem right on your ground, bringing those pollinators in that you need for your crops and things. There's also, if you have a wildlife initiative that you may want to do to complement that. So there are lots of different other enhancements that you can add, from fill borders, filter strips, from even if you have high toners. I would say there are things that you can do to enhance those high toners to make it efficient, such as adding gutters and collecting water from your runoff from your water and watering that instead of using other water. So there's lots of different things that you can do to initiate cost savings.
No, you were asking, you were saying about the runoff of the rainwater. I was wondering, like this past year, we had such a drought. Runoff of rainwater is excellent, perfect. I do have runoff of rainwater, and a rain barrel reflects all of my rainwater. We the plants love fish. It's perfect. However, when you have a drought and there is no more rainwater and you run out, then what? Do you have a program where you can put a reservoir of that rainwater and collect it underground or somewhere where you can then use it via maybe a pipe, turn on a valve or something to be still watering your plants? What do you do if there is no rain?
Well, if you don't have any rainwater, that would have been something that should have been addressed at your initial, as one of your resource concerns, when someone came out and evaluated your ground. And I would have said, look at, being that you have alternative crops, look at getting a well and pipeline and an irrigation system. Now, if you apply for a high tunnel, or are applying for a high tunnel, there are certain practices that should go together and complement to create a total resource management system. That's always our goal. Our goal is never one specific practice for you to do. It is to create that total resource management system. So one thing feeds into another, so your ground and everything is working efficiently. So I would have said, maybe go back and revisit EQIP. And if you have alternative crops, apply for a well if there's no other water source for you to tap into. So, and then there's also, depending on how much ground you have and where you are, yes, there's tailwater recovery systems that can be created, and where all the water that you use, it comes and collects back into a spot for you to reuse again. There's reservoir systems. So there's as creative as you can be, that's just about as creative as we can be when it comes to putting conservation on your ground.
And I also
They can't hear her online. It's just like, that's a mute, you need to mic.
I do have a high tunnel, and I was wondering, the cost of the high tunnel does not include the cost of transportation, all of the equipment that is fabricated to build the high tunnel. So that's transportation, it's just the cost of the high tunnel. So in other words, say if I have a high tunnel, I purchase it, and I don't know, New York, and then to get it here, that I have to pay for the transportation, then pay for someone to put it up. I just recently heard, I don't know if it's true or not, there is equipped, thinking about, or is there going to be some type of program maybe coming about where we will be instructed on actually, putting up our own high tunnel and actually, implementing and putting in our own irrigation system in the future?
Well, I mean, me, where I came from, that was already being done. That is always your choice, whether you can put that high tunnel up yourself. And that is with any of our NRCS practices. You are more than welcome, as long as it meets specs and standards when they come to check it out, to implement the practice yourself. The transportation cost. Now, when they do and create the scenarios, understand that the transportation cost they look in is from within a certain range. They would never expect for anyone from Arkansas to be looking to order a high tunnel from New York. So, I mean, I know, but I'm just saying, so there are lots of things. Now, what it has done is just the components, the shipping, just like everything else, has inflated. And they are aware of that, and they are working on a plethora of practices to help meet those expended costs that have gone on. And, you know, I would say shop around, okay? Because I will tell you, in the midst of even these high prices, there are some companies that still have very reasonable prices to get your items to you. I had a farmer contact me from my old county to let me know that he had found something really reasonable. And most of them come with instructions about, because it goes by the kit. There's no design that NRCS gives you. So it's literally whatever kit that you are ordering. So I would be sure to work with my NRCS office and my district conservationists to find out what they are recommending, what are they seeing are the best high tunnels, and, you know, to go for and ask them, you know, and for other references, you know, to look those things up and check with other people that, you know, have gotten high tunnels, and see what their prices was and how much it was to get those set up. Because I'm telling you, it varies from whoever you're dealing with. And sometimes if it's a group of people that want to have or need work, then you may be able to get a better deal, because if a contractor can come over and they know they have, you know, plenty of work, they might be willing to do a little dealing. Just never know.
All right, are there any other questions, any online, any questions from the audience?
No, he put, Mr. Price put his information on here.
Mr. Price?
Calvin Trice, he put his information.
Hello?
Okay, it's Mr. Trice has, he has posted the information on the online. Mr. Price has posted the information in the chat box. Those of you who wanted to get in contact with him and take advantage of the resources that this program has to offer, that we encourage you to do so. Ms. Bell, I think you also provided some services, you know. Yes, so, and Ms. Bell, and she is providing the administration, both as a mentor, support in the beginning part, and other support services.
Excuse me.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, somebody tell me about that. Yes. Yes, ma'am. Go ahead. Do we have a question on the line? that question, Mike?
I don't know. I might have muted it. I don't know.
Hello?
Okay, well, okay, we can hear you now. Go ahead.
Yes, I wanted to know, can you apply for the CSP simultaneous as you try to get the EQIP contract completed on your property?
Yes, you can. The only thing is you just cannot duplicate any practices from your EQIP contract in your CSP contract.
And also I wanted to ask, the CSP contract is a grant, not a loan?
That we don't have any grants. We have what is called financial assistance.
Okay.
But to answer your question.
All right, thanks so much.
The actual benefits that you get from participating in the program is not money you have to pay back.
Okay, all right, thanks so much.
At the end of the question. We're gonna go now, next on the agenda, rule about, we don't have anything for rule about, we're gonna go to NAS. And all of these things that we talked about from the program perspective, NAS is going to tell you the importance of both their role and what your role is of participating with NAS.
Well, good evening, everybody. So NAS generally wraps up the agenda because we operate completely differently from everybody you just heard about. So my name is Jill Bishop, and I am a Deputy Director from the National Agricultural Statistics Service. So we operate so differently. One, you don't need a farm number for us. The other thing about us, which is one of the reasons we operate so differently, unfortunately, we do not hand out any money. But the benefit of NAS is if you do not participate in NAS, you do not get any money. Yes, let's talk about what that means. So NAS, one thing about NAS, the definition of being a farm for NAS is that you have to have $1,000 in sales or the potential to make $1,000 in sales. You don't have to have a farm number. You don't have to have anything like that. But NAS is known for the census of agriculture. We are the data collectors. It is by this data that farm policies are made. It is by this data we figure out where the holes are so that programs can be decided upon. It is by this data at the county level that pots can be distributed out at NRCS and FSA so that it can come to you as the operators. So right now, the 2022 Census of Ag is about to be collected. If you have not, and you are an operator, already received your Census of Agriculture in the mail, or if you do not receive it before the end of the month, I will need you to call our office, please, because it is vitally important that we find out and you are counted, okay? Because it is in these numbers that we find out where the needs are. It is in these numbers that they determine some of these rankings that they talking about. Okay? I'm just, okay? It's in these numbers that they determine how those pots are divvied. But if you don't fill out and have a voice to let them know that you're out there, those pots are not going to be divvied out correctly. You're not going to be counted. They're not going to know that they have these beginning farmers or these historically underserved farmers and operations that need to be serviced. So this 300 billion, not going to be divvied out right. Okay? So once again, if we're typing, my name is Jill Bishop, and our number is, my email is jill.bishop@usda.gov. And the benefit of being a part of the historically underserved community is that you can be added to our list at any time. So if you have not already received the census of ag, or if you don't receive it by the end of the month, I need you to call me so that we can get you counted, because you're that important. My number is area code 501-217-1915. There's no extension because it goes directly to this phone. Okay? Questions?
Are there any questions for Nance? No other questions? Okay. Well, we're going to start to wrap things up here. One, we're trying to cover urban agriculture, opportunities for becoming an urban farmer, and program resource opportunities for those individuals who may either already be an urban farmer, as well as understanding how to access the program if you are considering or if you're going into farming, either as an urban farmer or period, and how to access those resources, both from USDA, Farm Service Agency, Natural Resource Conservation Services, and then when you look at all of that and go through the process, the importance also of being counted as you're becoming a beginning farmer. If you have not received, if you just started farming, either as an urban farmer, I don't know if Ms. Bell has gotten her census information yet. You've got your, she's got hers, and she's a beginning farmer. She just got started. So those who have not received information regarding the census, I would seriously urge you to get that information. It is crucial, and they need to know. One, how many urban farmers, particularly historically underserved urban farmers that we have in existence today. So you can further justify those type of programs that could be most beneficial, be it through NRCS, Farm Service Agency, to you as an urban farmer. If you know of anyone who could possibly benefit from what you heard today, if you know of anyone who possibly owns land, and it may be heir property land, and they have some challenges in dealing with that heir property land, then I encourage you to have them to give us a call. And you can reach our office at area code 501-734-3005. Let me mention this, and I don't want to go all the way around the circle and come back again and go back over to FSA. As long as I know how FSA is back up here, with me. So the importance of my being here today is that whatever I talk about, I can be as wrong as I want to be. That's the good part when you have resource folk with you, that you can talk about everything and what they're supposed to be doing and what they are doing. And no matter how wrong you are, it's okay. It's okay because you got somebody in the back, they're going to correct you. Now that's the way you keep misinformation from getting out there. All right. So I don't ever want to be in a position I give any misinformation without having somebody else to blame. So if I give misinformation, if by chance the information I provide today you find it not to be true, then you can follow NRCS, FSA, and that. For all that misinformation that was put out there. But I feel most confident. I feel most confident that everything that has been said here today on the part of the corporation, that you will find it to be very valid, and that it has been backed up by the specialists in correcting anything that wasn't quite right. So I want y'all to give them a hand for being here with us today. We really do appreciate that, and all those who are online. One thing I did fail to mention regarding the heir property, some of you may have seen it online, and you may have read, seen it in certain news brief regarding heir property financing. And Farm Service Agency. Farm Service Agency implemented a financing program, and I'm not gonna put that on the spot, on the. Thank you very much. I'm not gonna put FSC on the spot on this, but, you know, from some of you may have seen it, but FSA, has provided financing to re-lending institutions, re-lending financing, that has gone out to, community development finance institutions, what are called CDFIs. And those CDFIs have been a recipient, and I think I'm right, this is area FSA, RD. FSA, okay, I want to make sure we get all this stuff. I want to make sure I'm good on this. See, if I don't have 6 years, maybe I just. See, FSA that's sitting on the spot here, see, I do have some back in office, just in case I got that one wrong. So when you said, no, don't put you on the when you say don't put you on the spot, I immediately look at my, I got some back. FSA has put that money out to various institutions that will make loans to finance individuals who have air property challenges. FSA has done that. Now, I don't know the name of those institutions that are doing the re-lending in Arkansas, but I would suggest if you call the state office.
Yes, or you local.
Okay, you call the state office or any local office and get the information on the bank or the lending institution that will finance air property. As you all know, you have major risk when you're dealing with air property. If you have one individual that may be dissatisfied, the city won't take interest out. That's one that can be challenging. The other thing that you run into when you're dealing with air property is that it can just create a lot of ill feelings sometimes and family and whatever. It's not necessary. It's not necessary. So if you have any of that going on, I said, one, you should have some come to a resolution. And one, you know, nobody's gonna be mad at anybody because you can resolve. You can resolve the situation. First point is that if any one of those individuals petition the court that they want that interest out, the new law in the state of Arkansas is that they must first offer their interest back to the other family members who do not want to sell their interest in the property or don't want to sell the property. So now that's the new law in Arkansas. So if they'll petition the courts, and we've had a number of them who's come to us who are my family member petition the courts that got me in court, and they trying to force our property to be sold. But the judges normally, in most cases, I should at least. Let me take that back. So maybe a judge listen to me now. We are hopeful, but the law standard for right now is that the judge there, that rule will be that you must first offer your interest at the appraised value back to those individuals who do not want to sell their interest. So then you will get a notice from their lawyer that they're offering you their interest in the property at the appraised value. Now that means that you will have that court document that those individuals and a list of all the other heirs that don't want to sell and those who want to sell, what they'll sell to you for. Now that may be a beginning process for you to deal with then going to that re-lending institution to say, this is the land, this is what the value of it is on a per acre basis of those individuals as so determined by the courts or by an appraisal. And we want to make a loan to purchase that interest out. Now, of course, whenever you have a loan now, you got to show me to repay the loan because they will have the security, which is going to be your land. And you don't want to take steps to retain the land and lose the land. in the process. So you should have a means by which and how you're going to repay that loan. It may be because the other members are still working. You're going to use a part of that revenue to pay the loan off that you have taken out for the interest of those individuals. Maybe that you're leasing the land out. Or it might be some of those things right here that Mr. Williams talked about. That you may want to look at going to NRCS and say, okay, now we have 80 acres of land. We're buying the interest out. And we want to know if it will qualify for the 30-year conservation easement. It may have trees on it. If it has trees on it, then you should give a forestry service and get a forestry assessment done to see if you have marketable timber on the property. And if it's marketable timber, then of course they have to consult the contractors. One program is called Keeping in the Family with the University of Arkansas Pine Bluff, and where you can get an independent contractor to cruise the timber and let you know exactly what the value of that timber is that's on the property that can be used for repayment of that loan. These are just some possibilities, people. Not every situation is going to be like that, but definitely conservation easement is a possibility. The other is that whether or not the land is actually rented out. If you're getting the real cash value of what the land is worth. The other, it could be CRP. With FSA. It could be the Conservation Reserve Program. Yes, ma'am, your question.
If I have 100 acres of land and we're dividing it up in between 4 people, okay? One person want to sell their 25 acres. 3 people don't. I get the loan on the 25 acres because I want to sell it, or do they control when I get this loan to pay the other ones?
Well, let me just say this: as I understand your undivided interest, one is that you couldn't take you couldn't get the loan on just 25 acres. Because it's not, you don't have a deed on just that 25 acres to the survey law. So they would take a lien against the entire 100 acres and make you a loan for what you're asking for to buy that interest on the 25 acres out from that one individual. As I understand,
Dr. you're right. I want to say also, the lenders, this is a program that is outside of FSA. We have 3 lenders. And it's a unique program because FSA is doing the lending for it, you go to somebody else to get it. They come up with their own underwriting standards. I just want to put it out there because some of the lenders already have. Some lenders are trying their best not to use land as a collateral. They're looking to use other things that you might have of equal value for that collateral instead of the land itself, because they know for a lot of heirs, property owners, that's a huge concern of putting your land at risk. Now, each lender can set up how they want to. Right now, we have 3 that are either approved or conditionally approved. We're open to take up more applications from other lenders that are looking to be interested to loan, to lend money also. But I will also tell you that that's not the only alternative all the time. Like I will tell you, most from what we've seen so far, most people that are ready for the lending program, they are kind of like, as a family, are in agreement. They kind of already know what they want to do, that these people are finally being bought out. We want to make sure that not only are all the parties in the family identified and on agreement, but also that you are advised, you are trying to talk to experts in that area or getting legal advice. And also, I want to put that out there. I'm glad that you just gave an example. Be careful in public settings like this about talking about the specifics of your heirs property issue, just because it doesn't take much for somebody to try to sneak in and steal all your family's land when they hear something.
farmers.gov is a tool for USDA, FSA, and NRCS, where you can find a multitude of information, and it also has interactive tools to help you make decisions, informed decisions. And I also wanted to mention that we have Ask USDA. It's askusda.gov, and the phone number is 1-833-1-ONE USDA. And the good thing about this is you can ask your questions 24/7. So when the offices are closed, you can go online and ask your questions. Your answers come from the national office. And so, it's just a good tool. Exactly, and they respond to you in a certain amount of time. And so that's a good tool to have. Thank you. The number is 1-833.
Somebody get the phone, please, repeat that.
ONE.
Just a second.
The word ONE. No one, no number, but ONE USDA.
Okay, will you repeat that one more time?
Yes, I will. It's 1-833 ONE USDA.
The other thing I would add with heirs property, y'all are going through the court systems already, and if you choose to do a 30-year plan like this, please also put that in a will and follow that up for a trust, so that if somebody passes away, you're not doing this all over again 5 years from now. Full loop it, close it out, and make it clean, so that your next generation doesn't have to do this all over again. That's the whole point of this. Just make sure.
But I hope everyone, let me thank FSA, the added backup on FSA regarding the resource the FSA has for offering, that's one. The other added point is that, getting the financing is probably just half of it. Even if you get the financing, and most banks, a lot of banks, they wouldn't want to take lien on heir property because it's still undivided interest and not clear title. And there are other things that need to be done, just like you said, maybe setting up an LLC or something of that nature. But the main thing is that you shouldn't let it be lost to the courts by not responding to the decision of the courts once it's offered back to you. And that there is a resource out there with Farm Service Agency, with the relending agency that FSA has made financing available to. People, I think we're about out of time now. If there are no other questions, either online or, yes, you have a question there. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank you for bringing ALCDC to Central Arkansas. Two, thank you for all the thousands of acres of African American farmland that you all have saved over the last 40 years.
Yes,
The last thing I want to say is what people don't think about USDA or agriculture as a profession. If you listen to these people sitting at this table, think about telling young people to go and pursue, quote, agricultural occupation. This is not driving a tractor.
That was Mr. Bob Nash, and he's one of the founding members of Arkansas Land Fund Development Corporation. But not mentor, over the years, and he's an expert in dealing with air property. Air property is one of the bases of how the organization got started back in 1980. I think he was vice president of the Rockefeller Foundation, and also served as undersecretary of the Clinton administration. I won't even go through this all the other stuff. Mr. Nash, I appreciate that very much. People, that's all we have. If there are no other questions, thank you very much. Thank those in the audience and both in person. Thank all of you online again. All of my backup, these resource people, I really I'm we can just there's a show that comes on. I can't even think the name of it now.
It's Shark Tank?
Let's talk. And that boy, come on, let's talk. We're just gonna be a very good rated show right now. It's all I may be wrong, I got it back for another shit. But anyway, and here was we try to create a different type of environment and how we present and to feedback. People say, you all present and do just like the agencies, always cookie cutter. No, it's always cookie cutter. It's what you put up on the screen, it's what you read and talk about the program process. So what we're trying to do is just sort of a sit down, what we call round table discussions, talk about it both with the audience, those online, and with our resource people. If y'all can see, they're down to earth individuals, all yours online, and they're prepared to respond to any question you have. And they're prepared to also correct me on all the misinformation about our time. That's just how down to earth they are. So that's why they are resource individuals. The service to client bases, the USDA has both from a conservation perspective, lending perspective, program services standpoint, and they're here to serve. They're here to serve the USDA clientele and those who are potential, those who can become USDA clients as beginning farmers and access to the program that you may not have ever accessed before. Again, thank you very much, and we look forward to seeing you next year.